Hello, good morning, afternoon, or evening, dear viewer, and thanks for tuning in to today's discussion on the topic of politeness. Now, you might be surprised to hear us covering a topic last discussed by your grandmother when she told you not to chew with your mouth open. She's right, by the way. But rest assured, politeness is still relevant today, even on the famously impolite terrain of the internet. Indeed, politeness holds the fabric of society together, provides a roadmap for navigating social interactions, and ensures that I don't drop a deuce on my boss's desk. In our society, politeness is a virtue, or at least it usually appears that way. However, a recent push in the Senate to establish a dress code, because that's the main thing they should be worried about, made us wonder, are we too obsessed with politeness? Is it a necessary bedrock of society, or is it a tool for rich people to sartorially oppress the working class while distracting from larger issues? And is being polite more important than being principled? Well, today we're going to find out in this video on the sinister side of politeness. Won't you join me? Now, politeness is a relatively modern concept. In early Western civilization, rulers established dominance through strict hierarchies and the threat that anyone who looked at them funny would get beheaded. Because they believed their power was ordained by God and were treated as such, rulers didn't feel any pressure to be tender to their subjects. Cut to late 17th century colonial America, where people were tired of being treated like dog. The British imperial government reacted to the colony's request for more humane treatment with stricter rules and harsher punishments, like branding, whipping posts, and ear cropping. I don't know what ear cropping is. I will not Google it because I don't want to see images, but I'm sure it's real bad. Do not let me know in the comments. I do not want to know. Colonists fought back by getting plastered and shouting, In 1676, Bacon's rebellion saw insurgents drive Virginia's governor out of the capital before burning it down. 12 years later, Massachusetts leaders imprisoned their governor for 10 months before punting him over to England for trial. These conflicts convinced elites to really look inwards and ask, guys, how can we do better? No, of course they didn't ask that. Their question was, how do we stay in power when public stocks and other torture methods stop working? American leaders, reconsidering the nature of power, turned to the ideas of the British political party, the Whigs, who opposed absolute monarchy. Thinkers like John Locke and Algernon Sidney argued that a ruler's power stems from fostering a good relationship with their subjects. The third Earl of Shaftesbury, a student of Locke, insisted that politeness was a moral issue and that a decent person should care about the common good and be pleasant to be around. Discussions about governing increasingly praised restraint and exercises of power, keeping public executions to a minimum and at least pretending to care about peasant problems. Now, by the 18th century, governing became all about the 3 Ps: politics, power, and politeness. Hey, let me know in the comments what you think the 4th P should be. Using polite language was essential to being taken seriously and was used to gatekeep political power. Now, politeness indicated that one had a discipline of self worthy of the power to discipline others. Obedience was no longer a because God said so situation. It had to be earned, in part through being nice. Ben Franklin thought that fostering goodwill by being approachable, warm, and charming was more useful than brute force.
I don't care what Jim says. That is not the real Ben Franklin. I am 99% sure.
Politeness was the colonists' counterreaction to the monarchy. In its nascent form, it curbed excesses of power and tyranny by making it uncool to lose your shit and throw chairs. So they would have hated wrestling. However, the advent of politeness didn't mean that power was transferred from the elites to the people. It mostly made the powerful seem less scary, like someone that you'd want to grab an ale with. Now, colonial elites used polite society to distance themselves from the common people, both physically through memberships to club rooms and great houses, and culturally by rejecting popular language, ideas, and even the act of humming, which was considered not classy. I'm fine with that. I don't think you should hum. I think it's annoying. Why hum when you can sing? As the modern state emerged, political authority was vested in public institutions rather than the monarchy. Wealthy businessmen suddenly had influence on policy and public affairs. Thank God for the wealthy businessmen for bringing us where we are today and telling us that weapon stocks are in a good place. Invest in weapons. Politeness became a soft form of power that acted like a verbal and behavioral passport, giving elites social, cultural, and political credibility and gaining them admission into the cool kids country club. Now, obviously, the filthy, unwashed masses were not included, but the elites believed they knew what was best for the public better than the public itself. They were the voice of the people, a voice that sounded like
rich mahogany.
By building affection and loyalty through the performance of sensitivity and concern, leaders used politeness as a free pass to respond to their constituents' discontents with a hand pat and I see you, I hear you, all while doing absolutely nothing. Today, politeness remains ingrained in our culture. It's used to gatekeep social class. People at the highest strata of society are raised within this culture, while the rest of us flounder at formal dinners and accidentally use the little fork for our steak.
Shrimp fork, salad fork, dinner fork.
So why does cutlery at a dinner table inspire such anxiety and panic? Because we understand what it says about us, chiefly whether or not we even deserve a seat at the table. Our social identities dictate what is considered polite behavior. Gender, ethnicity, class, religion, culture, and language all help define the rules for how we are expected to act. On top of that, rules of decorum differ depending on who you are, where you are, and who you're talking to. So does your perceived social status. You might be the king of the improv group, but when you're with your partner's medical colleagues, you're now at the bottom of the social ladder because all they want to talk about is saving lives. Ugh. But what if you could wipe your social identity from the equation? Would we act more civil if the playing field was leveled? Well, the internet sought to do just that by allowing everyone the opportunity to operate in anonymity. Social media has become the central place we congregate to discuss politics and other societal issues. But politeness and its kissing cousin, civility, were seemingly left out of the code. Sure, we have some standards of digital politeness, right? Like if you leave a period at the end of a sentence, it means you're mad at someone. And if you respond to anything with a K or a thumbs up, you're being openly hostile. But a lot of people take anonymity as free reign to act like an asshole without any repercussions. If you've ever peeped the comments of a YouTube video, you know that anonymous users are apt to say just the rudest you've ever heard. And I have found, in my own personal experience, sometimes if someone says something really mean about me, I'll respond, not in a mean way, but just be like, hey, I'm a person, I might not really think that, or that's not very nice to say. And so often people immediately turn around and will get nice, especially with DMs, because sometimes some of you send me kind of mean DMs, but if I ever respond, you get really nice. So conversely, when users engage with each other in individual, one-on-one interactions, they're way more likely to be nice and even send the occasional cute puppy meme. If you want to send me one, I like Australian Shepherds a lot. Thank you. Still, given the widespread absence of real social accountability, the internet has become a place where rules of politeness just don't apply. And a lot of us don't like that. Per a recent survey by Boston University researchers, 68% of US respondents identified online incivility as a major problem. Nearly all respondents agreed that side effects of online incivility include cyberbullying, harassment, violence and hate crimes, intimidation and threats, intolerance, and people feeling less safe in public places. As if that's not bad enough, mean-spirited online discourse has led to increased political polarization. When someone you disagree with calls you a dumbass, it's really easy to take it as evidence that the opposition is just full of rude and untrustworthy monsters. We have a hard time separating an asshole from the whole body. Sure, we could avoid this by just putting down our phones for a bit, but what would life be like without internet-induced rage and anxiety? Alternatively, maybe we could just stop engaging with toxic comments. Well, maybe you can, but I can never look away. It's like a million car crashes happening all the time, 24/7. And even if we could, as the Boston University researchers observed, the mere presence of uncivil comments on a news article influences readers' overall perception of its content, which is a bad way to judge the legitimacy of what you read. Now, in a similar vein, the study also found that our biases skyrocket when we're exposed to rudeness. Reading someone's f***ed up comment makes our brains just shut down. And it's impossible to process information when all we see is red. The power of randos on the internet to immobilize our information processing sucks even harder because many of the worst actors on social media are bots. People's political perspectives are being shaped by Weedlord420 at Telegram, hit me up, deplug 6946, the Russian Dogfather OG, Joe Biden eat butt 420, at Dianne Feinstein's ghost 42069 lick it, Jesus' shaved penis 42069. Our social reliance on evaluating people based on their politeness is so strong that without it, we completely lose our ability to think rationally or assess the validity of an argument. So when it comes to politeness, we can't live with it and we can't live without it. Now, on the one hand, civility is objectively a good thing. But on the other, polite society was engineered by elites to justify why they deserved and could be trusted with power. But on an even more insidious level, politeness and civility are still used as a form of control. It's a way to keep social undesirables down while ensuring they don't disrupt the status quo with things like protests, a huge social faux pas to those in power. And you notice that a protest is rude or bad or inappropriate whenever it directly contradicts with the interest of those in power. Who would have thought? In America, our expectations for offline politeness often make us focus more on civility than on what's actually being said. When NFL player Colin Kaepernick began to kneel during the national anthem in protest of racial and social injustice, then President Donald Trump called it a total disrespect of our heritage, and many agreed. He's fired! Side note, people from other countries, do you all do the national anthem before every sporting event? Not ours, your national anthem. That seems weird, that to play sports, we have to praise America. I don't know, it just feels weird. Now, it's worth noting that Kaepernick's act of supposed impoliteness rendered him unemployable by the NFL. Meanwhile, Tommy Tuberville can go on a racist rant and still keep his Senate seat. When you're protesting police violence in America, why is it on you to be the nice one? Especially when people in power are not held to the same standards. Kaepernick recently put it, when civility leads to death, revolting is the only logical reaction. Now, sometimes incivility is necessary to highlight injustice and fight against it, especially when all other options have been exhausted. Consider the time former White House press secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders was asked to leave a restaurant for supporting Trump's anti-trans politics. Similarly, a Fox News correspondent was asked to leave a restaurant for saying degrading things about women and using eugenics to contextualize the debate around Roe versus Wade. Now sure, telling someone to get lost isn't technically polite, but neither is supporting policies that hurt already marginalized groups. When we focus on etiquette, it's often a thinly veiled way to protect people in power from having to feel bummed out or being made accountable for how they vote. This distracts from the bigger issues. Now, it would certainly be easier if the ungrateful masses didn't complain about the systemic injustices that keep the upper echelon in power in the first place. On the political stage, the request for civility feels more like a demand for compliance, especially when those at the top seem to be exempt from the rules of politeness that they accuse everyone else of not following.
He said he was going to ask a very simple, easy question. And it's not. It's not a simple question, not a fair question. Okay, sit down.
This all brings me to tone policing, i.e., it's not what you say, it's how you say it. This insistence on having decorum is used to distract from actually listening and emotionally engaging with people. And it's most often used to discredit women and minorities who are trying to voice their observations and opinions. Marginalized communities experience the brunt of social injustice, including impoliteness, but are also under the highest expectations to act politely.
America would also be more safe in a situation in which all of our constitutional rights are protected. This is the way our scheme works. This is how the Constitution that we all love operates.
Meanwhile, waspy dudes can scream and cry all they want and still be treated with respect.
This is a circus.
This all goes back to the fact that politeness is hierarchical. There are those who have the privilege to be impolite and others who must be polite to command even a modicum of respect. And of course, who those groups are is very predictable. This is not to say that civility and politeness are all bad. On the contrary, many scholars and most generally decent people agree that being good to each other is ideal. Take it from me, I love niceness, I love smiling, I love saying hi to people, I love holding doors open. I think that people, to be honest, in Los Angeles are not very nice in that way. I wish they were we're more polite in that way. So what this video is really about is fellow residents of Los Angeles, let's just be nice to each other, you know, act like you're, I don't know, in Wisconsin or something, and just smile and eat cheese curds. But demanding politeness for the specific purpose of quieting marginalized voices becomes a problem. While civility and politeness are worth striving for, they have historically been weaponized by an elite strata to delegitimize the voices of the common folk. You know, those unruly peasants who might disrupt traffic with a march, or kick someone out of their restaurant, or hey, maybe throw some tomatoes at a painting. Who gets to be treated politely is contingent on a multitude of social variables, but often it's the most marginalized in society who are expected to be polite, but not to expect politeness. This can squash legitimate civil disobedience and hinder change that would improve people's lives, which feels like a pretty high price to pay for a little decorum. But hey, what do you common folk think? Can we strike a healthy balance between striving for civility and addressing systemic injustice, or should we just give up and give politeness the finger? Let me know what you think in the comments, and let's be super polite about it. Thank you to the very polite community of our patrons. We like you a lot. You support our channel directly. It helps us out. You get perks in exchange for that support. And if you want to join this cadre of lovely individuals, there is a link in the description. Thank you to all of you for supporting the channel, for feeding the algorithm, for liking, subscribing, commenting, all that sort of stuff. It's very polite of you. And special shout out to our buddy Greg, who helped produce the last couple of videos while our friend Olivia was off doing something really important and special. In the meantime, remember, it's not cruel to be kind, but don't use kindness to be cruel. I'll see ya in another video on this website very soon. Bye.